Professional wrestling is an art. This is the podcast dedicated to exploring that simple truth. I'm Tim Kale, and this is The Work of Wrestling. On today's episode, a review of AEW's latest pay-per-view, All Out. Greetings, dear listener, and thank you very much for lending me your time and your ears as always. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at FTKale. Like the Facebook page at facebook.com/workofwrestling. And remember to give the podcast a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts if you are so inclined. My buddy John will be joining me for this review of All Out, and I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as we enjoyed having it. But it is time, one more time, one and all believers, in the moment of pop, to go to work on the work of wrestling.
Before we get going on anything, I would like to... You did a great job on that show last week with the Punk promo.
Oh, thank you.
But I would like to... I have a couple thoughts just on the whole general Punk thing that I'd like to get in before we get in, because I know we're going to spend a lot of time on that probably, but you and I have seen a lot of wrestling over the years, obviously, you know, me going back as far as some of the 1980s stuff and everything. That was the first moment I've ever seen where, like when he came out on that first Rampage, where I knew it was making history as it was happening. I mean, he comes out and they start Cult of Personality and you can barely even hear it.
Yeah.
The crowd is so loud. I was like, oh my God. This is, you know, like I knew it was going to be big. Like there was no way it wasn't. They teed it up for him. It was in his hometown. You know, they weren't exactly hiding the fact that he was going to be there, but they were and they weren't. But I mean, everybody knew he was showing up.
Yeah.
And they still just killed it. It was one of the greatest moments I've ever seen.
Yeah, agreed.
And like, you know, you and I have seen a lot, and to say that is like, and I the comparison I have is my buddy Justin on the podcast. He watches WWE and AEW, but he somehow, I think because he's, you know, 10, 12 years younger than I am, he missed a lot of the Punk stuff. So he's not as familiar with him, and I kept telling him, oh no, this is going to be huge. You don't, you know, I know you don't think he's that big a deal, but this is going to be enormous. I mean, you got to make sure you're watching this. This is going to be enormous when he shows up. And then I get a Facebook message from him a couple hours later. He's like, I guess I underestimated how big a deal that was. And it's, for me, and we'll probably get into some of the stuff at the end of All Out tonight, between that and what they did at the end of that show last night, they are, and maybe the ratings won't show this right away, but they are legitimate competition for WWE as of now.
What did you think of the first match of the night, Eddie Kingston versus Miro?
Oh, you're skipping the buy-in.
Yes, I am.
That one was actually good.
Actually, I agree with you.
Go back and find that, I would.
The buy-in was good. I did see it, and I agree. I did enjoy that match a lot.
I only bring that up because that one there's usually one thing in every third or fourth AEW show that somebody does in a ring that I've never seen in my life. That thing where Jungle Boy was on Luchasaurus' shoulders, and Mark Quinn jumped into him and he power slammed him off of Luchasaurus' shoulders.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. You know, but anyway, to Moxley Kingston, I really enjoyed Miro Kingston. I really enjoyed that. As we were talking about beforehand, I think it's smart to like escalate the level of competition that Miro's getting. Yeah. And I do question, like, I like the idea of giving Miro sort of like a weak spot that you need to hammer on to get him down to like human. Yeah. I question making it the neck though, because it's like, in reality, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, but if he has a screwed up neck, why are you letting him do anything?
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, make it something else where you're not like, where it doesn't come off like, well, if he's got some sort of problem with his neck, what is he even doing here?
Yeah, I haven't heard that take. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if he had CTE
I will
or
say
something.
From not caring about Miro when they brought him out with Sabian at first. This is, I mean, I know we talked about, is giving him the TNT title really earned at this point? Maybe it wasn't when he first beat Darby, but they've made it pretty damn impressive. Agreed.
Yeah, they've made it an impressive title run, and I really loved his onslaught of Eddie right from the start. I love how Eddie's selling is spectacular. It's a little bit over the top when he does his wobbly legs, but it's still enjoyable. And you get some good selling from Miro where he's holding his neck early on in the match. And there's this one time when he kicks out before one, and Miro gets pissed at him, like, how dare you kick out before one? And then Eddie Kingston just gives him the middle finger.
And I kind of missed that there was some, referee controversy, because the first couple of matches I wasn't really listening to the commentary because my wife was awake and she was watching stand-up comedy clips on Facebook, so I kind of sort of heard the commentary for the first couple. But I could tell there was something weird going on there, but I couldn't quite read what it was.
Yeah, I can tell you what happened. A turnbuckle pad got ripped off, and the ref was trying to fix it back onto the buckle. During that time, Eddie hit two big moves, one of them the DDT, and it gave him enough time to win, but the ref wasn't there to count.
Oh, right, because he was putting the pad back on. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what it was. I must have been distracted by our cats or something, because I looked up and saw that, Eddie had him pinned and the ref wasn't there. So, I had no idea of how long that had gone on for. So,
yeah, that's what that
makes
was.
sense now. That was a good match. They're clearly setting up another one.
Yes. Well, and this one thing, this is a comment on commentary, just how much better commentary is in AEW. Excalibur said that Eddie Kingston is Han Solo-like, never tell him the odds. The way he said that, and the way it's meant, is to genuinely, in earnest, flesh out an aspect of a character's being. It's not meant to be an allusion to something that is popular in pop culture. Can you imagine, I can imagine Michael Cole saying the exact same thing, but with this insincerity and this, Star Wars is coming out next week.
Except it would have this tone of hey kids, we're relevant. We're talking about the Star Wars.
Exactly. Yes. So that was just a little note.
The other thing and this had me dying. Only Eddie Kingston at this point could legitimately sell a T-shirt with the phrase "Redeem D's nuts" on it, and not have people what the hell is that?
Yeah.
That's normally the kind of thing that I would just kind of go, but he came out wearing that and I was dying. It was so good. He's probably become my, stealth guy that I think we talked about when he first showed up, that I did not give a flying shit.
Yeah.
And now, he's become one of my favorite guys in this promotion, too. It's,
Agreed.
It's amazing what they're able to do as far as just, give somebody a couple quality matches and whatever, and they actually let people talk in a way that's not, where you can tell they're reading off a card.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's as over with me as he's going to get, probably.
All right, so the next match is Kojima versus Moxley. And this, I felt, was the nice other side to the coin of the first match. Because Mox and Kingston are so connected. They're them going first and second, I think, is interesting. And similar kind of beat-down matches. Very different match overall, more hard-hitting, just and tests of strength throughout. What did you think of this match?
On paper, it was interesting. I just I haven't cared about any of the Japanese stuff, really. just because they don't. And I know it's a weird thing, like they've got some deal with another promotion to do these, but they don't promote them in a way that makes sense to me. They did a better job with the one that they're leading to for Wednesday, because that guy came out after this one was over and actually had a little bit of an interaction with him beforehand. Like, prior to that guy, they've just been throwing names around. I'm just like, okay, well, this is a decent match, but I don't actually care.
Yeah, if you don't know any New Japan, you're not going to enjoy it, because it's giving you kind of like a tiny taste of what New Japan is like. And the Minoru Suzuki coming out at the end is a big deal if you know New Japan and if you saw his rivalry with Jon Moxley in New Japan.
But at least that one, with the way they set it up, at least like when that guy comes out, when they do that on Wednesday, at least in my brain, I'm going to be like, oh, I remember that guy, okay. As opposed to just some name they've thrown around for 2 weeks, then he shows up, and it's like, okay, cool.
Okay.
But, it was up to Moxley's usual standard, so it was at least worth watching. I wasn't, like, getting up to take a dump or anything.
Alrighty, well, the next match is Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander. What'd you think?
Really enjoyed this. I know when we first started doing your show on this promotion, Baker was somebody that I could not stand. She's getting better every single week for me now. Just, she's settled into what this character is. I think having that title helps her a lot. That bit on the last Dynamite where she was like, oh yeah, I engineered a giant signing for the women's division because I signed a new contract. I was like, oh my God, that's so great. And you had mentioned the Jordan thing from a couple months ago, like the I'm Michael Jordan speech.
Yeah,
she just owns this character now, and it's I think the problem she had early on is you could tell she was not comfortable, and it sort of didn't sell it well enough. And now she is, and it's like, okay, well, this is worth watching now. And I've always loved Statlander. Glad to see her back in there and in important matches again. So, yeah, that was pretty much fun all around. And it went exactly, all of these so far have gone exactly the way I expect them to go. We'll get into the ones that didn't. There were a couple. But, as I said before, the road for them is the more interesting part. And if you make what they do in the ring and what the story they're telling is interesting enough, I don't care that I already know how you're going to end it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I knew Statlander wasn't going to beat her, but they made it a hell of a match anyway.
Yep. Yeah, this started to get really good after an electric chair, a really impressive electric chair. Then there was a "This is awesome" chant. There was Orange Cassidy by ringside, willing Chris Statlander back into the ring, screaming to get her back into the ring.
That was actually the first time I've ever seen him care about anything.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was the Pittsburgh Sunrise into the curb stomp, into the lockjaw, which was just a really good final sequence to get her to tap out. That was interesting. My wife was kind of watching that one, and I had to explain the whole, because she was like, why is she putting a glove on? Like, why does that matter? And I said, well, she's about to do this thing where she sticks her hand in the person's mouth to get him to pass out. And she was like, really? That's a thing? So she's, I've got her to the point where, she understands why I like this thing, but she still kind of looks at it and goes, okay. All right, so the next match is the Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks in a steel cage for the tag titles.
Match of the night for me, that was fantastic.
Agreed completely.
That was absolutely, and this was actually the one of the two that I guessed the result wrong. I thought there was no way they were losing yet. I didn't think we were anywhere close to them losing yet.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have it be the Lucha Brothers, though. But I thought we were still going to be in this. They have all the, the elite guys have all the gold for another 6 months or whatever, and I didn't think they were going to actually drop them yet. But it was a beautiful match. Like it's clear to me by now that the tag team division is where this company really wants to stand out from WWE.
Oh yeah.
Because from what I've seen of WWE the last few years, they don't care about tag team wrestling at all. Like, I'm surprised they even bother.
Oh yeah, same. Yeah, they couldn't care less.
But AEW clearly, like, they know that's something that they have that the other companies don't. And I mean, those guys are even, the Lucha Brothers are just fantastic. I've always liked them, and I really love the Young Bucks heel bit. They're really settled into that, that swaggering, like, we're pricks and we're better than you, and you know it. Not to steal from MJF, but they almost do that better than he does. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this was just the thing that Phoenix did from the top of the cage. Like, that blew my mind that somebody would even try that. Yeah. Like, he got up to the top of the cage, and I was just like, he's not actually going to do that. Is he going to break his legs? Yeah, it was a great moment. I'm curious to see who the next couple of feuds for them are going to be. I mean, that tag division is wide open. Yeah. So, I mean, they could do a lot of things, really. This was the
first time I had sympathy for Pentagon Jr., Pentagon El Zero Mero. Because he's the one who got the tax kicked into his face.
That was a little much. Really? Tax on a shoe? Yeah. Really? Okay.
And he got his mask ripped open a lot, and there was this one moment where he had his mask all torn up, blood's pouring down his face, his eyes are open, and even though he's wearing contacts, I could just sense and see the pain and the, what's going on? This can't happen. And I just really felt sympathy for the first time, because they've been so good and so entertaining, but so emotionally impenetrable for me. Like, they've been so strong, and they haven't really shown weakness. But in this match, they showed that vulnerability, and it really worked. It won them. It won me over even more for them.
Yep, and it hit me in the ultimate mark moment after the match when his family came out and all that stuff. Like, that was where it hit me. Like, okay, maybe you're supposed to look at these guys as kind of human now.
Yes, that's what it did. The match, we hit on the nail on the head, dude. The match humanized the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I love Phoenix. I mean, he's going to be, assuming he can stay healthy, and I think that's his biggest problem. He's had a bunch of injuries even in the 2 years that this promotion's been a thing for. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be Ray in a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's going to be better.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, he's on that trajectory where he's going to get to the level where Ray was at his peak, and he's going to be better.
I completely agree.
He just has to not shorten his career.
So the next,
I'm really curious to see who they put him up against. I would actually start with, if you're gonna try to make them as big of a deal as you have been lately. Although I hate all that stuff with the former MMA guy yelling at everyone. Start them with Sky and Paige. That, to me, that would be really interesting. But I mean, I'm getting really sick of that former MMA guy just yelling at everyone.
I know, me too.
I just fast forward through all that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I hear his voice and I'm like, no.
All right, so then the next match is the Casino Battle Royale. I thought, I'm just going to bypass 90% of it and just say that I really thought it had the right final three in Thunder Rosa, Ruby Soho, and Nyla Rose. And I really enjoyed.
And this will tell you how far behind on WWE stuff I am. That was Ruby Riott, right?
Yes, that was Ruby Riott.
Okay. Okay. And Ross actually called her that.
Oh, he did?
Point, and I was like, wait a minute, what?
Oh, yeah, that's funny. No, it's... I didn't know her name was Ruby Soho, I guess, on the indies, but apparently that's what it was. So that's why everyone there knew it.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of went, but she was very impressive. I've never seen her before, but I mean, she was very impressive. But when she came out and everybody freaked out, I was kind of like, okay, I don't know who that is, but okay.
Yeah.
And I had read some stuff that said that she was going to show up. Mm-hmm. Still not knowing who she was. And once I saw this was going to be another one of those battle royals where they did the Joker thing, I was like, of course she's going to be the Joker. It's always somebody that's debuting or whatever. So of course it's going to be her if they do that. But yeah, I do think it was. I'm surprised they gave her the title shot right away. Mm-hmm. Usually they make new people kind of go up the ladder a little bit before they do that. But I guess, they did that with Brian Cage, too. They gave him a shot at Moxley right away. So it's not without precedent. But, yeah, it was a very good match. I found myself, the women's product for me is improving because I can actually sit and watch it and not feel like, I feel kind of grossed out by this. Mm-hmm. But that was more like my own stuff. That's nothing to do with the actual product itself. But, I made it through both the championship match and this without once going like, I feel kind of dirty right now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to me,
that's improvement.
Yeah, and it's a better product on the women's side and we've talked in the past about how they don't promote it as much, although I think that's improving as well. But I definitely think it's a better product on the women's side than what I'm watching from 2014 WWE when I have a chance, because that stuff is terrible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see Ruby Soho and Baker. I think I would bet that'll be television somewhere. I don't think they're going to hold that for 2 months for Full Gear or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think that'll be good. So, and it was, I did like some of the pairings, like the Bunny's getting better as a wrestler.
Yeah, she is. I never
thought I would say.
Yeah, she is.
I do find her sort of, I hate the weird, open mouth vacant thing. It just creeps me out.
Yeah.
But when she's not doing that, she's great. But it's whenever that starts, I'm like, oh no. But I don't know. It just comes off kind of weird. But I think they're getting the women's stuff in order to some degree. I wonder too if some of that was, the people that they're putting at the top initially were well, it's Japanese people. Maybe they'll be around. Maybe they won't be. And then you had the whole thing with Riho, and then she went away for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then Shida was great, but I never felt she had that really long run. But I also always kind of felt like they didn't really know what they wanted to do with that ever, and they just would kind of randomly throw people against her, and there was no long-term planning to that. So I think with Baker, because she's one of their homegrown products, I think they have a better idea of what they want to do with her.
Yeah.
And I think that person that's going to beat her hasn't shown up yet, or at least hasn't been elevated to the point where they're going to do that. I think they're going to let that ride for quite a while still.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
and actually, I think there's also an inroad to get her into and maybe it's inside baseball, depending on what people know or don't. But I think they have an inroad to get her into that elite if they want to.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But we'll get into that at the end.
Yeah. So the next match is MJF versus Chris Jericho. What are your thoughts?
This was great too. He's getting better in the ring every time. I mean, they're giving it, my biggest complaint with him at first was that he was a great promo who I hadn't seen enough in the ring to know whether he was any good or not. He's getting better in the ring every time they put him out there. And I mean, this was another one where this was the other one where I misjudged the result. I absolutely thought MJF was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and I know it had the stipulation on it that Jericho was going to stop wrestling if he lost, but I thought that, they harped on it so much, I thought that was what they were going to do. Just because, he is, 50, 51, something like that. I thought maybe even he was looking at it going, and he's doing the Rampage commentary now, and I thought even maybe he was looking at it going, yeah, maybe it's time to get out. And I thought they were going to, I thought having MJF win would be the perfect counter to, how psychotically happy everyone is over Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then you have, the historical marker for this show is going to be Punk. And it's going to be, to a lesser extent, Danielson. But then you would also have this footnote of oh yeah, this was also the last time Jericho wrestled for them. And you made MJF your ultimate heel by doing that. And I think they'll still do something down the road that will get him there, and he's pretty close now. But I was surprised when MJF did not win that. I was happy for Jericho, though, if he wants to keep wrestling. I was not opposed to Jericho winning, but yeah. I was very surprised. What about you?
I thought it was fine. I didn't see a section of it because I had to take my dog out to pee. So
yeah.
I came back and Jericho was winning. So I'm happy that Jericho won and is sticking around. I think I didn't want to see that story of him losing and going away because I wouldn't believe that story anyway. I think he'd come back and they'd try to figure out some way for him to wrestle again. So I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Yep, they might as well save it for when he really wants to stop. Then
exactly.
If something like that is how they're gonna get him out, then save it for when he really wants to. When he really wants to do that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So the next match is the one. It's Darby Allin versus.
Let me ask you a question though. Do we want to break order and just put that one last? Because I could see us going for 20 minutes on that alone.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Let's go with Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage. Thought this was a really well worked, excellent match. That I wasn't totally invested in. Had a good ending with that super one-winged angel.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
The one thing I will say, and I do agree with pretty much everything you said. That match was fantastic. My problem is, I'm almost wondering if I have to stop paying attention to sites like Cage Side and all this stuff that publish the outside stuff, because that was a great match. They set it up well. Everything about that was great. I think they intentionally did the thing with the Impact title the week before or 2 weeks before to make you think that he could lose to him again, but on the same hand, I knew he wasn't going to. But at the same time, it's if you pay any attention to the backstage stuff, it's that their plans are to have Hangman Page take this title off of him. So, I went into that knowing there was no way that Christian was going to win because their plans are something else. But if you try not to, I'm almost wondering if I've got to, stop paying attention to those things.
Just to keep it pure for yourself.
Yeah. Because it informs too much of what my process is for.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it, but when you go into it knowing, they're clearly doing this and they're only holding off because Adam Page had a kid and he's not around.
Yes.
And if you know that, then they probably pulled the trigger on the Christian thing because they needed somebody to fight him. And, it was great. Christian's always great, and Omega's awesome. And I do think the heel thing works really well for him. Here's my outside thing. I have never cared about the belt collector aspect of it because they don't do enough I get it's like cross promotional, and they're not really, for the most part, gonna put like Impact matches on AEW's air. They're just not. I mean, they did it the one time, but they could have been doing it this whole time. Like, if you want to make me care about that, I'm not gonna watch another show. I'm not gonna go watch Impact Wrestling for another 2 hours a week to get like one 20-minute segment that I might give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
But what you could have done, and maybe this is just, they were unwilling to do this, but he defended the Impact title a couple times on their pay-per-views, I believe.
Mm.
What they could have done is maybe like a month after those matches happened, put them on Dynamite. With the understanding that this already happened, but they want people to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you do that, then maybe you get the rest of your audience to give a crap about this other stuff. Like, I would have killed to see that AAA match he had against Andrade, but they were never going to put that somewhere where I was going to bother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate him as a heel. I do think the whole him as a heel champion touting how much better he is than everybody else is great. I just don't give a crap about all this bill collector garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's the thing that all the indie marks are leaning on with this. And it's like, that's the part of this I don't care about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he's great. He's 10 times better as a heel for me than he ever was early on. Because he's never registered with me early on. And now at least he does, now I get the hype with him. And I did not for at least the first year of the company. I was like, why are they telling me this guy's a big deal?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
Now I get it.
That's good.
I could do with a little less of Callis.
Oh
now.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they don't let him. I mean, he's talking more, Omega is, but it's not like he's terrible at it. Like, why do they have this other guy yelling at people for him?
Yeah, I don't think Callis is necessary. I think Kenny can do just fine on the mic.
And I defended him. I defended the whole Callis thing a couple months ago, but now it's just in so much overkill between Omega and the Bucks and everything else. Like, does he need to be out there for every single match one of them has, just spewing the same stuff over and over and over again?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, keep it to Omega matches if you really want to do that, because that was his whole in. So just keep it to that if you really must. But, I wouldn't say get rid of him or anything, but I just think it's between the two shows and him being on every match that any of those guys do, it's enough.
Agreed. So, in keeping with where we're at right now, post-match, Adam Cole comes out. And we think Adam Cole is out to help the Lucha Bros, the Dinosaur Express, when really it turns out he's not, and he's a heel, and he sides and hugs Matt and Nick Jackson and reveals where his allegiances lie. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have no clue who Adam Cole is. I am trapped in 2014 when it comes to WWE stuff.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I mean, I know the name, and I kind of know what he looks like. Like, I've seen pictures. So, when his music went on, I knew who it was, and I knew it was a big deal because I know he's he was one of the big young stars in WWE, and he's over there now. So, I get, historically and within context, I get how big of a deal this is for him to show up there. But I was not, when he showed up, I didn't know enough about him to know what his leanings would have been. So, when he showed up and then he super kicks Jungle Boy, I was like, okay, well then that's obviously, they obviously want, and again, this is another badly hidden thing, like the Danielson thing was really badly, they were pretty open without being open about the fact that he was going to be at this thing tonight. Mm-hmm. So when Adam Cole showed up and did what he did, I was like, oh, so this must just be they wanted people to think that was going to be Danielson, and it wasn't. And then everybody in the crowd thinks he's going to go face and attack the Bucks, and he doesn't. And then people are like, oh, does that mean Danielson's not showing up? Oh, no. I think it was all just counterpoint and set up for that. And not that Cole can't go and be awesome in this promotion, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing what his deal is. But I do think it was all just like almost kind of a fan troll for the Danielson moment.
And so, being that we're on that, how did you feel about Daniel Bryan showing up at the end?
Again, would have been nice if, and again, this is where I happen to traffic, and maybe I should stop doing that, but they weren't really hiding it. You know what I mean? And some of that, too, is like the Punk thing even had it. Like the first Punk thing where, or maybe that was the first Dynamite one where like people started doing the yes chant, and he was like, oh, that's somebody else's deal, but you might have to wait a little bit for that.
Yeah.
Like, once that happened, I was like, oh, well, he's clearly showing up here.
Yeah.
So, it was a great moment. I'm not as attached to him as a lot of people are. So, like, it was a great moment. I was happy to see him because, I do think he's another guy like Punk that kind of got short shrift in WWE. So I'm happy to see him show up and see what he can do in a promotion that's going to let him do what he wants and is going to actually use him probably far more effectively than WWE ever did. But I'm not super attached to him in the same way that I was with Punk. Mm-hmm. So, like, while I appreciate it, I wasn't, like, hopping up and down over Danielson. Mm-hmm. Where, like, Punk, the Rampage thing with Punk, I spent that 20 minutes with my mouth open.
Same.
And my wife was just like, and I tried to explain to she's like, why is this such a big deal? You tell me that people from other companies show up on this thing all the time. Like, why is this a big deal? And I said, this is the guy, Punk is the guy who, and maybe this will be a good prelude for getting into that actual match, although we skipped the big show.
That's okay.
Punk was always the guy for 7 years or however long it was now. The prevailing thinking was that he was never going to come back. Mm-hmm. Like, ever. Mm-hmm. And I think, even when...
I'd made my peace with that.
Oh, I'd made my peace with it years ago. Like, probably by at least like 2016, I was probably just like, okay, well, he's most likely never going to... And at the time, there was no concept of something like AEW even existing, but still, even then, I was like, at this point, why would he? Even if there was another company that he could go to, like, why would he? Because they do exist. He could have by now. And, maybe he just wanted to wait for something that was big enough to... And I kind of believe what he said in a lot of those promos where he saw the young talent that AEW has and says, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, I think he's being honest there.
Yeah. So, I mean, Danielson is great. I do think he's going to do great things for them, but they're almost getting too... Even with the second show, I almost wonder... I was thinking to myself, watching that ending last night, I was like, Adam Cole and Danielson, is it possible that Vince is going to win this whole thing because they're going to run out of money? I mean...
Yeah, it seems like they are spending a lot of money. My more of a concern for me is that seeing so many ex-WWE guys on the show at once detracts from who I would identify as AEW's talent.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said for that. I'm choosing to view it as, and I think this is a running thread I've had throughout all the AEW shows we've done. Justin and I even did a review of Double or Nothing on our show, and I think I mentioned the same thing. I don't really... That's true, and I do think that's something that I hear a lot of, like, average, not to, like, crap on fan bases, but I hear a lot of, like, average fans who don't give this stuff as much thought as, like, you and I do, say that. Like, you're flooding the show with WWE people. What are you doing? But to me, that's, a lot of it is like people that WWE didn't really care about, that they had on their air, but were not, with the exception of Jericho perhaps and Moxley to an extent. They're largely people that I don't really think were ever used to the full potential that they could have had at that company.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, Danielson is somebody, like, you would think for as much as they put behind him for a couple of years there, that they would have given a shit when his contract ran out, and they didn't really seem to. And they should have given a shit when Adam Cole's contract ran out. They didn't. And as much as I've never seen him, I don't know anything about him, but for anything I've read, it seemed like they didn't really give a crap. So it's like, what, they're just, AEW is just taking advantage of what WWE doesn't want to do, Well,
and to the possibly highest order of that, not utilizing the talent to their full potential, and AEW being that place where maybe you can. Let's get to Darby Allin versus CM Punk. What were your reactions to this match? Well, first of all, what did you think of his attire?
I don't really. You mean Darby or
Punk?
I don't really tend not to think about that much. What was he doing that was different than what he always does?
I'm an attire nerd. Normally, he's wearing the shorts, like the tight short trunks, wrestling trunks. Now he's wearing pants.
Okay. Oh, he had pants. Okay.
Yeah, he had pants. With stars on the side. Maybe that's not the best place to start.
I wonder if that's just like, I'm in my 40s, I don't want to wear shorts. Like, I don't wear shorts in public. I barely wear shorts in public anymore. So, I just wonder if it's that.
Yeah. So, what did you think of this match?
I thought it was wonderful. I actually watched it like 3 times.
I watched it twice, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so... I mean, even just down to like the crowd stuff. I mean, and obviously, again, it's teed up for Punk. Like this whole week of their programming has been teed up for Punk. All 3 shows were in Chicago this week. I mean, but like he comes out and the crowd is singing along with Cult of Personality. Like, I've never heard that.
Never heard
that.
Like
for all the years he did that in WWE.
Nope, never done.
And all the years he had that song in WWE, I've never heard the entire crowd just do that song. Like, I was blown away by that. And then like he did the It's Clobbering Time thing for the first time, and the crowd basically took it away from him. The crowd basically did it for him. And I was like, I've never heard that either. Wow. And I do like, I mean, and I think this is a very smart way to take Punk now. If he's going to be like I always felt like in WWE, and you and I have both loved his work for years, like he is probably unquestionably my favorite wrestler of all time now, and has been for a couple of years. I always felt like in WWE, he sort of played into his own personality in a way. Like, he did actually think he was better than everybody else, and he was in a lot of ways. And the whole drive behind his WWE run was like, I'm this little guy who everybody's gonna overlook, and I'm better than you. And he sort of played into that. He had a certain amount of arrogance that was earned, and everything. And that a lot of that informed his WWE run for me. With this, especially after that, I think it was the Dynamite promo where he was like, I'm trying to find out if I can still do this.
Yeah.
Right? Against all these younger guys who could ostensibly all be better than me by now. And like, I really appreciated in the Rampage promo the degree to which he put Darby over.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I keep hearing people going like, and this is all idiots on the internet, so of course there's no actual value to this, but I keep hearing people like, he'll have some sort of issue with how he's being booked, and he'll be gone in a year.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Right, and I'm just like, well, he's never run away from any of that, and to go out on live TV and say, like, all these guys could be better than me, and I just want to prove it, and it's like in WWE, he never would have done that. Like, he had a massive chip on his shoulder in WWE, and he should have. But, I mean, now, like, and he wrestled that match like the veteran who was like, if I make the slightest mistake, this guy's going to kill me.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that. Like, and it was one of those things where, and we've talked about the fact that they're not afraid to have Darby lose, like, a lot. And he did, the one stretch where I thought they didn't do that was when he had the TNT title. He held that for a good long time, longer than I thought he would. But they did exactly what I thought they would do. Obviously, Punk had to win that because, I think they had to show that he could still go, for one. And I literally think that crowd would have rioted. But they managed to have him win that and make Darby look like $1 million.
Yes.
Which is the goal. I mean, with something like that.
Yes.
I do think eventually, as this goes on and as he does more in-ring stuff for them, and if you believe what they've said about his contract, and I don't know how many years it is, but if you believe what they've said about his contract, he's going to do 10 to 12 matches a year for them. So he is going to wrestle on TV. I mean, it's not just going to be pay-per-views only. He is going to wrestle on TV if you believe those numbers. So I do think there will be people that he will eventually lose to. But I do think he had to win this one just to show that, he could still do it. And they did. The psychology of it was really interesting to me. Like, he took all of Darby's stuff and he had clearly done, and I don't know what they actually do, but you could make the argument if this was a real sport that he had clearly done his homework on him. Like when he sat up to avoid the coffin drop, like I was just like, that's
great.
Awesome. Why has nobody done that?
Yeah, that was great. That reminded me of hearing Punk talk about figuring out how to break down the John Cena comeback. He's like, why doesn't anyone ever just kick you in the head?
Yeah. Here's one thing I've always wondered about the coffin drop, though, and maybe why they have to give him something else. He's so small. Like, why would that do anything?
Well, and the Lord...
I love Darby. I mean, you and I are both massive Darby marks. I'm not... In no way am I shitting on Darby Allin.
Yeah, no.
Like, he is so small. Like, how does that even do anything? Well, I've seen him bounce off people, and it's like, how does that even...
It's the magic of momentum.
They gave him some holds and stuff, and I like that. But, like, I see the coffin drop, and it's like, how does this do anything?
I forget what it's called when he uses their leg. He puts them in a kind of like a figure four, but then bends the opposite direction as a kind of.
Oh yeah, they referred to it by name, and I can't remember what it was.
I know, neither can I. But I enjoy that he has that pinning finisher a lot.
Yeah, no, it was an excellent match. I was very pleased. I was worried they were going to, because it was such a pro-Punk crowd, I was worried that, because nobody, like, it's a pro-Punk crowd, but it's also people who understand this promotion. Because, like, nobody was booing Darby at any point.
No.
Like, even when he was winning, and, like, I thought the crowd was just going to turn on him when he was winning. And I was like, no, these people get it. So I thought it was really well done. I selfishly probably wanted it to be a little longer, just because I want everything with Punk to go as long as it possibly can. I was a little shocked when Punk threw Darby into the turnbuckle and he went through it.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never seen that before. Holy crap, he is small. But that worked really well too. Just everything about. The match construction for a lot of these things is like how they come up with these things, and it seems to be less like let's just do everything we can think of. And some of them are like that. Like the Bucks matches are like that. They just do everything they can possibly conceive of. But like Darby was willing to play that within what Punk is capable of right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen any of his WWE work in so long. I forget if that was basically the same kind of stuff he was doing there too. Because it's been so long, I haven't gone back and looked at anything. Like, I don't really recall him changing anything significant to deal with younger opponents or different opponents or anything. It's just been so long since I've seen him in a ring. I kind of forgot all that.
Yeah, the way I watched him recently in a match against Daniel Bryan, and it's not that he has lost a step or anything. It's that I think he's still finding his way after 7 years.
Been a long time.
And that's why there were so many abdominal stretches and rear naked chokes. And he worked a very kind of, I'm controlling this match kind of style. But it still resulted in a good match due to the juxtaposition of speed in Darby Allin and in those moments when Punk unexpectedly hits a GTS, but Darby Allin falls outside, or Punk is going for the DGS, and then or Punk sits up after the coffin drop. They had these moments strung throughout that held it all together really well.
Yeah, I also think you're right in that the stuff with all the rest holds and whatever. Like, if you're paying attention and like watching the context of it leading into it, even that Punk's big concern is like, this kid's so quick. If I let him do that, he's going to kill me.
Exactly.
Right. So obviously the approach was, if I ground him and he can't do that, then I have a shot. But if I give him the window to like run around and kick me in the face, I'm going to lose. And I'm curious to see, who do you think the next opponent's going to be?
Oh man,
I've got one already.
Yeah, you tell me yours.
MJF is right there.
Yeah, he is probably with the biggest heel versus arguably the biggest face in the company. That makes sense.
And what you can do too. I mean, if you want to involve all the Pinnacle guys, I mean, you have stick him with Christian and Danielson and you would need 2 more, but I could probably think of that given a minute. So I mean, if you want, and you can also, I mean, they're trying to limit how much he does in the ring, so you probably couldn't have him fight all the Pinnacle guys separately, but you could get him like a little posse to deal with the Pinnacle guys. But yeah, MJF is right there. I selfishly want Omega, like now. But MJF, as I was thinking about it as the show ended, I was like, MJF makes the most sense right now, but who knows, maybe he'll take a couple weeks off and just do promos and stuff, or not show up at all. Mm-hmm. And then they'll use that time to figure out, Here's the thing I wanted to ask you, because I think you pay more attention to structure of these shows and everything than I do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, leading up to this match with Darby, they've had Punk on every TV show cutting promos, right? Mm-hmm. But it was also only like a 2-week span. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't wrestle again for another month and a half, or whatever, do you think they still trot him out there every show to do that, or was that just because they knew what part of the country they were in, and they knew they were promoting this match with Darby? And like, I could see they've almost put themselves in an impossible position where a certain percentage of the fan base will expect him to be there every night. Yes. And even if he's not wrestling, which I completely get, but fans are gonna start to expect him to come out every show and cut a promo or whatever. And at some point, that's, as much as I love his promo work, at some point that's going to get old. Yes, exactly. Like, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. So
I expect him to, especially after hearing what you said his contract is. I mean, I'm sure he'll cut a promo on Dynamite this week, but I think, yeah, he'll probably. I could see him like working a program, then going away for a few weeks, working a program, then going away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing too, I mean, if it is 10 to 12 matches a year, he is going to do TV.
Yeah.
I mean, there have to be TV matches in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they only have 4 pay-per-views a year. But yeah, I could see him like cutting a promo where maybe they give you who the next opponent's going to be, but then he'll go away for like 2 weeks, and then he'll come back and they'll start to, whether it's a TV thing or whether it's whatever. If his next match is Full Gear, then maybe he goes away for a month and then they come back and start building towards that. I could also see, and I feel like at some point they're going to do this. I just don't know if it's going to be right away. I could also see Sting.
Yeah, I agree. I could see Sting as well. I think that.
I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to see him fight a 61-year-old guy with a bat. But I could see him doing it.
I want to see it. I'll go on the limb here and say I want to see that match because I think they'll both protect each other.
Yeah. See, Sting doesn't do that much for me. He never has. Mm-hmm. I'm in a weird minority where, like, I appreciated the Crow thing at the time, but I was just like, even that, like, he wasn't doing that much in the ring. It was more just him in the rafters with a bat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and at a certain point, that's fine. But then, like, now, and I applaud the base principle of it. Like, he didn't want to go out after that concussion from that crappy Seth Rollins match or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right? And I get that. But, like, he's 61 years old. Like, he doesn't fit what this promotion is. Like, and I get they have a lot of older, former WWE people, but they don't look, like if you told me Christian Cage was 45, like, I guess he looks that, but he doesn't go in the ring like a 45-year-old guy, you know? And to me, Sting, they're super protecting to cover the fact that he's 61 years old. And I get, use him as a manager if you want. I think it's done wonders for Darby, although, we made arguments at the time, like, does he really need it? Mm-hmm. But it has, in spite of my thought of that initially, it has actually worked. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm not going to say it doesn't, because it has. So, yeah, I mean, I do think there is a percentage of the audience that wants to see that, and I would definitely go for it if they did. I hope that they do that is on television.
Yeah,
or at least it's on a pay-per-view card with a lot of other good matches on it.
Yeah, like this one.
Because I'm not sure you want the central match of one of their pay-per-views to be Punk and Sting.
No,
but I do think there's an audience for it. So overall, I would say this might have been the best pay-per-view they've done for me. Mm-hmm. And I do think at least for me, and somebody who works for them might be able to say better than me for this, but I do think All Out is their WrestleMania. And it certainly felt that way last night.
Alrighty, everyone, that about does it for this episode of the Work of Wrestling podcast. Thank you very much to John for lending us your time and your insight into these matches. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you, dear listener, for your listenership. It was also greatly appreciated. If you enjoy the podcast, remember to give it a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It's also available in Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. You can also like the Facebook page at facebook.com/workofwrestling. Thank you one and all once again. Until next time, go out there and find yourself your moment of pop.